No worries. All right. And actually, Christy's in the room with me, so she's having some technical challenges as well. So she is present. You're welcome. Like,
So Lynn did say she did accept the invite.
she did accept the invite.
Okay. Well, I think we have a quorum even without her. So I think it makes sense to proceed so that we respect everybody's schedules. Okay. So you're recording. So let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let me thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. And our first item of business is the discussion and possible action of PSPRS membership status for Fire Inspector John Westbrook. And what I'd like to do is to start off by asking Kiona and Cindy Kelly, our lawyer, to just brief us quickly about the significance of this decision and any related legal and other considerations that the board needs to be aware of. So Kiona and Cindy, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay. Kiona, do you want to just describe what's happening here? That this particular individual was a firefighter with Summit and then transferred to Cottonwood as a firefighter and was made a fire inspector. And now he wants to transfer to Cottonwood, or he hasn't already, has he?
So as it stands, John Westbrook, who was recently hired by Sedona Fire just last month, when he got hired on with us, he was still an active member in PSPRS and has been an active member in PSPRS since 2003, starting with his career at Summit Fire where he was working as a firefighter. And then in 2013, he got hired on with Cottonwood Fire Department, and where he worked as a fire inspector. Now, mind you, the city of Cottonwood, their pension board, made the decision that he should remain in PSPRS as an active member, even though he was employed as a fire inspector. So he's still showing active on their roster. Active in PSPRS. Now, Sedona Fire has just hired on John, and at one point in time, he was assigned hazardous duty as a firefighter back in the days of Summit Fire, and his membership has remained active even through his employment with City of Cottonwood. Now the question is presented, do we continue his active membership, him being hired on as a fire inspector with Sedona Fire District?
Okay. So I did a little looking into this. This is a little bit different situation that normally happens, but typically when members are changing employers, the service contributions and everything automatically transfers to the new employer. Many times certified firefighters become fire inspectors and stay in public safety. And it's just like police officers that sometimes, they're an active police officer later on in their career. They may not be involved in hazardous duty all the time, but they're still a member of public safety. This question really, I went back to the statute of 38-842, that's section 42, talking about regularly assigned to hazardous duty. And the statute does address the fact that sometimes people go in and out of these positions, and sometimes are not in hazardous duty, but I mean, I assume if he's a certified firefighter, he could be called up. That was the rationale police departments use, is that they're certified, you know, post-certified, so they could, even though they're not doing hazardous duty, in case of an emergency or something, they could be called up to do that. So that's kind of their rationale for keeping them in public safety. The decision ultimately lies with the board. It's up to the board to decide if they want him to come in, you know, and remain in public safety and transfer all his credits and all that sort of thing. And one thing I wanted to tell the board is that these decisions are subject to rehearing or appeal by public safety. I think they're the only ones that would really complain about it. I haven't ever seen that really happen. So if you want to ask me more questions, I feel free to do that. I haven't had exactly the same situation before, but I do think that I think if the board decides to keep him in public safety, I think that's how public safety would, I think public safety would keep him there. I don't think they would object to it.
And I do want to add one other thing, you know, and the reason why this is being presented to the board is because in our previous situations where we had a current employee who was working in operations, that current employee who was working as a firefighter on the ops side of the house, and let's just say they transferred over to be a fire inspector, then okay, great, we'll keep them in PSPRS because their employment with Sedona Fire has remained continuous, and it's pretty easy for us to connect the dots of the is or was assigned hazardous duty because that entire time they were an employee of Sedona Fire. This here is our first time having an employee hired on, but they were not an employee of Sedona Fire when they first started with PSPRS. So they haven't been assigned as a firefighter with us, but their membership has not, their membership is still
Continuous.
active. It's still continuous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'd like to suggest is, and thank you, Kiona and Cindy, for the background on it. What I'd like to do is to hear any thoughts from the rest of the board. I have some thoughts, but I'm going to hold off on that. Where are the board members about this? Craig?
Keona would know. I went to the court hearing for a previous situation like this. Oh gosh, maybe Kai would know how many years ago that was, but it was denied
Mhm.
at the Prescott court. So I don't know what the ramifications of that is. And my other question is on the packet, the minimum qualifications for some reason says 3 years experience in the position of Fire Inspector 1 at Sedona Fire District, or 3 years of operational firefighting experience at Sedona Fire District. Now, I don't know if that's going to cause us, I'm just trying to protect the district. Does that cause any issues with it being at Sedona Fire District? And that's on page 2, and then on page, I think 6 or 9, I get those two mixed up. The fire chief signature is not the current fire chief. That's all I got.
I'll take the easy one first, and that's with the job description and minimum qualifications. Number one, even though it still has the signature of the former fire chief, the job description is still considered current and valid until a new one is drafted. In regards to the years of of performing as a firefighter with the Sedona Fire District. That minimum qualification was put in place to encourage current employees with Sedona Fire District on the outside of the house to encourage them to consider moving over to the fire marshal's office as a fire inspector, and then the fire inspector's office will train them up to be
Right.
good and active fire inspectors for the district.
I just didn't know if those two terms at Sedona Fire District repeated would cause any issue with the PSPRS saying, hey, you're breaking your own guidelines.
No, because you can also qualify to be a fire inspector with Sedona Fire District if you have prior fire inspector experience with Sedona Fire or with another agency.
Okay. Well, it didn't mention the other agency. That's the only really tiny thing that I didn't know if somebody would bring up.
Yeah, no, we definitely have vetted that out, and it is a non-issue.
I got a question. I know, John, it seems like you're not able to speak. Can you answer in text? Let's see if we get a chat response from him. So I got two questions and, fleshing this out. One is going back to the job description that Craig was just talking about. Okay, I'll do my best. Cool. So, clearly stated in the summary, duties performed in this position are distinctly and substantially different from operational positions. I think that's important to at least consider. And then a question I have directly for you, John, is would it be your intent to pick up shifts? Because I know the people that have gone over to and that we've kept in PSPRS before, even though it's not in the job description, have qualified in their positions or still are qualified and do have the intent to work in that role. That's all I have to say. So, yeah.
And John, before you answer that question, I'd like to touch on that because it's something that the organization did discuss ahead of time. As far as being able to work on the operations side of the house, as you know, we have our firefighter task book and everything else before someone is actually qualified to work in a position on the ops side of the house. So the primary intent of the hire of the fire inspector is to have a fire inspector. Getting him position task book qualified to work as a firefighter with Sedona Fire District isn't something that is on our priority list as an organization. It may be something we may consider later on, but as of right now, the focus is on the new fire inspector working as a fire inspector.
Other comments and questions?
Oh, and I'm sorry, he also asked about John's intent on staying in PSPRS. Was that it too?
Am I on mute? No. Okay. Yeah, the question directly was if he had the opportunity, right? Which I know there's other things, right? So, but if he had the opportunity, would he take that opportunity, or is the intent to solely work under the job description that he got hired under?
Okay.
So if John is responding, I know I can't see. There we go. Great.
Mhm.
Thank you, John. Other comments and questions?
Easy.
I guess, yeah, furthering the discussion, what would be, so looking at the benefit, I can see what the benefit for John would be to stay in PSPRS, and, current PSPRS member. So, what is the benefit of keeping them in PSPRS or shifting them over to ASRS, for both Sedona Fire and for PSPRS? I think that's something that we need to consider. Like, I can see the benefit for him. Is it a mutually beneficial thing to keep him in PSPRS, or is it working against PSPRS to keep him in that role? I don't know the answer, but something that, I'm thinking about.
I could point out what John just typed out was the point of the previous, was he fire marshal, Kai? Was his title? That he was trying to stay under PSPRS, and we ended up going to the Prescott District Court. I think
Oh,
Tim and I went to the hearing.
I want to say it, and correct me if I'm wrong, this goes back to the Will Loesch case.
Right. I didn't want to say a name, so I didn't.
Yeah, Marshall.
But what John added there was Will Loesch's point. I saw him in Safeway about a month ago, and he was still a little hot under the collar.
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, I am in hazardous positions, possibly more so because during their investigation, I haven't seen very many fire investigators wearing their air packs. It's kind of hard to do that kind of work, and we held our position, and then Will left,
And I do want to address that particular case because that one there is different from this one.
good.
The former fire marshal with Sedona Fire, at the time, he was never in PSPRS. He never had membership
Right.
in PSPRS, even though Sedona Fire was a active participating employer in PSPRS. So during his employment with Sedona Fire District, the question came up about shouldn't I also be in PSPRS as well as the fire marshal? Because yeah, I'm going into these hazardous situations. And it was decided no, because number one, he wasn't assigned as a firefighter, and the statute does make very clear that fire marshals, fire inspectors, fire investigators are not included in that group of individuals that qualify for membership in PSPRS. So that was the reasoning behind that decision. This case is a little different.
Well, that will take it back to the original summit. It falls on them. I just wanted to make sure it didn't fall on to Sedona Fire. So if the president was set by two other districts, it's like, yeah, we're just doing what everybody else has done.
Yeah. And I apologize too, because Kai, you asked a question as far as benefits to the district, as far as staying in or out. And the benefit, the real difference between membership in PSPRS and membership in ASRS, the difference is the cost. And in all honesty, yes, the cost is higher for PSPRS. But with PSPRS, after 20 years of service, you're entitled to a full pension and all the benefits that come with being assigned hazardous duty and putting in those years as a firefighter, and the district absorbs that cost versus the cost of putting them into ASRS. the percentage that the district pays into that pension bank is substantially lower. And the ability to retire, you don't become eligible for retirement until I think it's like age 62. So that's more years of service that are required to realize a full benefit with ASRS. So pros and cons on both. One's really beneficial for the employee, but has a higher cost to the organization. The other one, lower cost for the organization, but also requires the employee to push off retirement further along than originally intended.
Are there other questions?
I think
Okay.
the discussion has been good, so I don't have anything right now.
Okay. All right.
I do have another question.
Okay, Kai, great, go for it. That's the whole
All right,
purpose.
and I
of it.
think this is directed more towards our lawyer here. So what, it seems kind of messy to me in that we have a very clear indication, right? Like if this person were new, if we're looking at the law, it's clear that fire inspectors and fire marshals would be put into ASRS, correct? So
Yes.
what's the precedent where we were able to, as PSPRS boards and or organization, what was the precedent where we were able to take the intent of, I assume the benefits package is presented during employment and pre-employment, and there's statutes that regulate what we can offer. Where was that muddied so much now that we have people that are able to go into what seemed like a fairly clearly defined category of people, and we're allowing this kind of like cycling around?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is based on the end of the section 42 of the statute says, since the normal duties of those jobs described in this paragraph are constantly changing, and I don't know if his job is, it says questions as to whether a person is or was previously regularly assigned to hazardous duty shall be resolved by the local board on a case-by-case basis. So, I think that's just what they have done in the past. I was just with one of my bigger boards the other day, and this particular gentleman had been a firefighter for 30 years. In the last 3 years of his employment, before he retired with a disability, was as a fire inspector. So, if they were assigned to hazardous duty, it seems that they're able to remain in public safety, even though they might not be doing hazardous duty at that time. I think, what we're looking at here is coming up. I don't think it'd be an issue if he were staying in Cottonwood at all, but because he's coming to Sedona, I think the board just has to ultimately make the decision about what they want to do with this.
So your reading of the statute is that if at any time they were assigned to hazardous duty, they qualify for PSPRS membership?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that settles it then, if that's the reading of the law for me.
Well, go ahead. I'm going to introduce, being somebody who comes from somewhat outside the fire community, I want to introduce a few practicalities into this. First of all, he is currently PSPRS, right? Secondly, if he had come up through the ranks at Sedona Fire, this wouldn't be a question,
That is correct.
right? Thirdly, I think we're finding these days that fire marshals who come up through the ranks, and I'm going to say particularly in Sedona, are hard to come by, particularly when a lot of our staff live in places like Phoenix and Chino Valley and other places like that. And the prospect of a 4-day-a-week, 10-hour-a-day job instead of a shift job, which comes with a place to sleep and eat and all of that, is not as appealing. And yet we need trained fire inspectors who have experience as firefighters. So I'm concerned that if we don't do this going forward, and yes, we're setting a precedent, but if we don't accept someone who is already in PSPRS as and was a firefighter and did hazardous duty, but now we want to bring them into Sedona, if we don't let them continue in PSPRS, we're going to have a hard time recruiting people into a fire marshal position. Because clearly there's an opportunity for our own folks to come up, but we don't have a lot of them that live in the immediate Sedona area. So my thinking is that along with this being legally appropriate or possible, that it is setting a precedent, but I think it's a good precedent to set because it will help us as we go forward to recruit firefighters, or excuse me, fire marshals who may not have come up through the Sedona ranks, but who want to be in Sedona and want to be a fire marshal and are part of PSPRS. And I would hate to say, sorry, but you have to give up PSPRS in order to do that. So that's my 3 cents worth. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, and I think Helen, you hit on something that was kind of key to me. Is we are setting a precedent, and the quality of candidates. I've been a part of a few of the fire marshal testings, and we want the best candidates we can get, and being able to stay in PSPRS is a huge benefit to the employee. If you look at John's resume, like that just doesn't tell the whole story. He's beyond qualified for this position. So thank you, Helen, for bringing that point up. I think that helped me get to a decision point.
Helen, I think that really helped me too. Your summary was really excellent. And also pointing out that if he had come up through the ranks of Sedona, we wouldn't be having so much angst or discussion around it. So I think given we have legal support, I think we could go either way and be okay with it. But I think there has been some precedent for that sort of action. And then this summary, I'm comfortable with it. I really am.
Other comments?
My only of me starting all this was protecting the district, because the last time I ran across Will, like I said, he was still pretty hot about, yeah, I went into hazardous situations, and I don't know if he can take Sedona Fire back to court. I don't. That was the only thought that brought that out for me, was that.
And just for, I don't really know exactly what inspectors do all the time. I mean, I've read their duties, but this one particular gentleman that just retired because he couldn't be an inspector anymore because of the situations he was put in, with his bad knees. So he just couldn't do that job even anymore as a result of being injured as a fighting fires earlier on. So I don't know.
And if I could add 2 cents on our previous fire marshal, this is a very different case from that one. And I think it's important that we note that, because in that prior case, that fire marshal, prior to their employment with Sedona Fire, or even during their employment with Sedona Fire, they were not working regular hazardous duty under the title of firefighter, engineer, captain, or any of those suppression roles, which the state statute makes very clear. So when that individual was working for Sedona Fire, they had always been in a investigation inspection role. This case is different because we're dealing with an individual who met the membership eligibility some years ago with another participating agency, that being Summit Fire, and they continued active membership in PSPRS. The only difference now is just that we have someone who's still a current active member and they are switching employers, but membership eligibility in PSPRS, there was no break in that. With the former fire marshal, from the start, they did not meet the qualifications as defined in the statute.
Right.
So if everyone is okay, what I'd like to do is bring this to a vote. I make a motion that we approve the PSPRS membership of Fire Inspector John Westbrook. Do I have a seconder?
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. No opposed, the motion passes. Sorry, Craig, were you saying something?
No, had a radio in the background.
Oh, okay. All right. So next item is to approve the June 16th, 2025 SFD PSPRS local board minutes. Do I have a motion to approve them?
I
I'll
move
make
to,
a motion.
Yep.
Okay, go on.
I move to approve the meeting minutes for the last board meeting.
Do I have a
I'll
seconder?
second.
Great, thanks, Lynn.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, we've approved the minutes. And our last item is the appointment of Christy Wigand as the Sedona Fire District PSPRS Local Board Secretary. In case it was missed earlier, Christy. Hi, Christy. Christy is now the executive assistant to Chief Mazulis and taking over the responsibilities that Kim Smathers had before. So once again, I will make a motion to approve the appointment of Christy Wigand as Sedona Fire District PSPRS Local Board Secretary. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Christy, welcome to the PSPRS board meetings.
Thank you.
And I don't think that we have any other business to transact today. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their schedule, but also for the really good discussion that we had today. That was great. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time and energy. And this meeting of the Sedona Fire District PSPRS Board is now adjourned.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
You're welcome, John. I just saw his text.
See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.